Hey everybody, Kyle here. Unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure that you feel like AI is absolutely everywhere and all at once. But the questions that remain is not what just cool stuff can this do, but what actually makes it work and how are we going to make sure we get the most out of it in HR. I'm joined today by Ian and Pilar, and we're going to talk a little bit about the latest coming out of ChartHop and what you can expect. So a real question for you, just straightforward, is what's new here? What can people actually expect out of ChartHop's AI Pro?
Yeah, it's really the shift from being able to have AI's system of insight and intelligence to a system of action. For being able to move, we've had for years the ability for AI to help you make sense of all the information in ChartHop. But now the AI agents can actually work within ChartHop to carry out all kinds of different tasks and really up-level the people team's strategy and approach from manual tasks to being able to really drive organizational strategy.
So one of the things that I have to observe is AI is moving really fast, right? And something that's different about this wave of innovation is that consumers can actually use these tools too. It's not just what the enterprise hands to them. And I am a fan of Claude, although ChatGPT is my friend as well. But like they can actually, these consumer grade tools can do a lot of autonomous agentic work as well. So why would I not just go to one of these tools that I might be familiar with? What can I expect that might give me more lift out of AI Pro?
We're plugged into the org graph, so that when you're using ChartHop AI, it understands your whole organizational history. It understands who you are. It understands the people around you. It understands your organization's goals and strategy. It understands the financials, performance. Everything is all there. When you're copying and pasting into one of the consumer tools, it's not going to be the most secure approach. And B, you're gonna miss things. The AI, because it's got this whole organizational history, is gonna be able to pick up so many different things that you might not have thought to copy into the other system. It's amazing that we've got these consumer tools and business tools that everybody is using because it's allowed this incredible adoption rate. People are, everyone in the world uses ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever it is, they understand immediately, intuitively how to use ChartHop AI to get to the outcomes they want to get to.
Yeah, I think so too. And HR has had to drive a lot of change management over the years. We've had to navigate a lot of stuff. And I think that having access to these tools has helped with the workforce building familiarity and experience with them. What about for HR? You are customer zero here. What are you experiencing as like the lift that you and your operation are getting out of these latest and greatest coming out of AI?
On the contextual side with agents, having agents who have access to all this information, but then also have a purpose, and we can leverage them, whether it's in Slack or other systems, to do things or assist us with things that then they can act on.
Oh yeah, it's not scalable. And then that loses the value that of this core promise of AI is like doing these things at scale. Something that's interesting though is like talking about consumer trends of like, I know how to use this now. Now is actually more important than ever to have security for these things.
That's exactly right. And that's part of the power of using a system like ChartHop to build agents is every aspect of our permissions model, all of the ways in which individuals have access to data, agents can be restricted, what access agents can what data agents can process, that's all going to be filtered through the combination of the viewer and who's using the agent. We've thought through the whole permissions model so that when you deploy agents using AI Pro, everything is safe. We're a product for builders, we're for HR teams that want to build, and we make it safe to do that in a way that's going to allow the whole organization to benefit from agents in a way that's going to be permission controlled, governed, and auditable.
I don't think I would have ever in my career have said like governance is cool. But it really is. I mean, I think that it is like the space, like the HR space. We are conservative by nature. Like that is what we are supposed to do. Is make sure that we're stewards of the business and helping that navigate innovation and change responsibly and safely. But that doesn't mean that we can't do cool stuff, right? When we were talking earlier, you were talking about something like that started with a business problem. I mean, a lot of people think about agents as just like task automation. But it's not, right? So I would love to hear about like this, how you are using agents to up-level yourself as a business partner to Ian and to ChartHop.
Yeah, I think one of the clear examples that we've used, and I think it's not only a clear example of like how to leverage agents and AI, but also where HR's intersection with business problems and challenges, I think is most well utilized. When we took a look at how we wanted to like up-level what we were doing in CS with AI, we ended up implementing an agent that reviews all of our Gong calls and the transcripts and then provides coaching feedback. It scores basically how the call went from a client perspective. But actually one of the interesting things that we're reviewing with that too, again, talking about history is, the moment in time isn't just the most important thing. It's how does that call relate to the history of the client behavior and the transcripts. And so we've implemented that agent through ChartHop, and now the managers on the CS team can see how they're performing, how their team is performing, how is this agent rating it, what feedback can we give to the team, what are the trends and analyses that we can observe, and then like what are the actions or decisions that we need to make based upon that. And it can feel very qualitative, but it is very much curated to what we believe is the right thing from a client health perspective, and very much like what Ian and myself and the head of CS have designed as like the rubric and the feedback that we want. And every single day, once we have a Gong call that ends, we get it, and it's like real time. It's perfect.
But I am really inspired by true agentic AI enabling us to not just have an aha moment in a one-on-one with an executive and be like, yeah, that'd be really neat. We'll have to see how we can do that. And 6 months later, that never got actioned, but can literally have a business problem that we're seeing in a meeting. Let me dig into that. And then suddenly, and not suddenly, 'cause it's not instant, but within weeks, have an actual scalable solution. That's unlocking a huge amount of value for HR that they bring to the business, right?
The way that we've designed the product, not only with AI Pro, but in general, is that we don't want to know the limitations of what we might see. And so what I think is really exciting and interesting is that there is so much that I think we'll be able to do that we haven't even envisioned yet. And getting our clients to go in, because we're built off of this idea of like flexibility versus rigidity. And so really what we're saying is like, here's a set of tools, decide what you want to do with them, and then like share with us how you use them. And I think sometimes what can happen with other platforms or even with AI, the constraints are fairly tight. And so what you're able to do is like pretty limited and finite versus like, I think for us, we have some examples. We obviously have agents that we're deploying. We have a lot of stuff we're testing, but I think like we've just scratched the surface. I think a lot of the work and the innovation and creativity is to come. And I think that's part of what's really interesting for us is like giving HR folks space to do that versus feeling what I often have always felt, which is very constrained by the software that I'm using, and even just like the technical limitations of what it does, because it's HR versus it's not a DevOps software. It's not an engineering software. So it comes with a more limited scope of like what I can play with and what I can create.
Yeah, we're breaking out of like workflow tools and getting into the world of like actual solution toolkits. And I know that this isn't just like a bunch of cool features. Like that's something I actually have appreciated about this launch is although there's a lot of cool stuff that AI Pro can enable, we have largely been talking about what makes it possible. So how are you thinking about like what is possible technologically versus you're shoring up a lot in the platform level to make this like organizationally viable, HR safe and approved? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think in HR, as it is for any leader, there's a balance between freedom and responsibility, right? You want to have the freedom to create and build, but you want to make sure that the level of responsibility you have to the organization is fulfilled. So we've tried to create the building blocks of AI Pro so that the agents that you can build with as little as a prompt to build an agent that can do all kinds of things is always rooted in a kind of permissions model. We've spent years building our ChartHop permissions model to apply to the whole system, but it's always going to be deployed in a way that's safe.
I mean, this isn't the Wild West. HR has a job to do, right? We're stewards of some really important aspects of business. Well, so speaking of stewards and speaking of what's possible, I know that there remains a bit of anxiety in the industry about impact of these tools to human workers. But as the two of you are talking about what you've done together, what you've done for clients, I really feel like you're scaling up your capability quite a bit. And so as we close, what do we think about the positive impact that even you are personally recognizing, you are personally experiencing from having these capabilities in your hands? And what might you say to those HR leaders who are maybe hesitant because they're not sure of what that downstream effect might be?
Yeah, well, I think there's two things that I think about. One is like workforce impact, just broadly, not just in HR, but I think HR, we're like any other function, right? We have things that we do every single day and teams that kind of like deploy that. I think for us, what I'm often observing, not only myself, but with other leaders, is that we're kind of shifting the ratio of the work that we're doing. And so when I think about, and we were actually having a discussion today about that even internally at ChartHop, is that you kind of go from being somebody who does a significant amount of execution to somebody who's kind of building systems and understanding how to deploy. So it's almost like you're becoming a manager by understanding what is the work that I need to do, and then who can I have do it, and how automated is it? And so I think part of what we're identifying is like very low discretion work. So anything that's fairly manual, I always kind of think of jobs as like the tactical, operational, and strategic. And so I think part of the goal is like, how do we take all the tactical work and drop that into AI? And then we start to bleed a little bit into the operational. And so if you look at, I think a lot of HR leaders, even with large teams, we're doing a lot of stuff across the board, both from like a functional perspective, because HR is very, very broad, but also we're kind of going down deep and going up high every single day. And so part of what I've experienced, and I think other leaders who are doing this really well have experienced, is that we're kind of dropping a lot of that stuff at like the 50% or below, and then it's giving us more space to do the work that I think is more macro level, more impactful, much better. And I think we're also able to spend time in the business in a way that's more meaningful.
I think it's super inspiring. I also am just happy to see that it's within reach.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's an aspirational point of view. I think that's very realistic. Ian, you have anything to add?
I think the future of HR looks like strategic business impact. And AI is this sort of supercharging tool that allows everybody to be a strategist, to start to design systems, to be systems builders instead of systems executors. And, I think the way that we've been operating internally, the way that Pilar's been operating internally, is in some ways a model for the way that we think HR can what that can be and what that can look like. Because the level of impact that a good people strategy can have on the business is beyond any other strategy you can have. A business is literally the people coming together with agents to help drive the business outcomes that we want to get to. So I think this is the best time ever to be a builder. It's the best time ever to be a strategist. And it's the best time ever to be a systems thinker. And we're really excited to share what we're doing and help level up all the different people teams out there.